Welcome back to Speak Your Truth, Poetry Podcast. Here we are, episode 10, final chapter of our first season. I know that I didn't think I'd get here, so I'm sure a lot of people out there didn't think we'd get here either, but we did. So take a breath with me. Over these past few weeks, we didn't just talk about poetry. We leaned on it. We wrestled with it. We let it sit beside us when things felt heavy and uncertain. We explored poetry as a companion through darkness and light. Through depression that feels endless. Through anxiety that whispered worst case scenarios. Through resilience that didn't always feel heroic, just stubborn. Through self-compassion when we didn't think we deserved it. Through community when we realized healing isn't meant to be a solo act. Through the quiet wisdom of nature. Through the simple, almost sacred rituals of daily practice. And somewhere along the way, we discovered something powerful. Poetry isn't decoration. It's not fluff. It's not something reserved for classrooms or stages. It's survival. It's witness. It's language for the things we carry, but don't always know how to say. This season has been about lighting a flame, a small one. Maybe, but steady. A flame that reminds us that even in the darkest rooms, we're not without light. And today, we talk about what comes next. Because the real work doesn't end when the episode ends. The real work begins when the music fades and you're alone with your thoughts. How do you carry this flame forward? How do you keep writing when life gets busy? And how do you stay honest when it would be easier to quit? How do you let poetry shape not just your words, but your choices, your conversations, your courage? This episode is about that. It's about moving from inspiration to integration, from listening to living. Not as someone who occasionally writes poetry, but as someone who embodies it. So take another breath with me. Wherever you are right now, driving, walking, sitting still, pause and notice this moment. You made it through 10 episodes. You showed up. You listened. Maybe you even wrote. That matters. Today we don't close a door. We open one. So let's talk about carrying that flame forward. Poetic life is not about publishing books. It's not about performing on a stage under warm lights. It's not about applause. A poetic life is about attention, a commitment to noticing the world with wonder. Wonder is a discipline. It doesn't always arrive naturally. You choose it. You choose to look up at the sky instead of down at your phone. You choose to hear the tremble in someone's voice instead of waiting for your turn to speak. You choose to pause when everything inside you wants to rush. Every small act of awareness becomes sacred. Watching a sunrise, not just seeing it, but witnessing it. The way the light doesn't explode into the sky, it unfolds, slow, patient, unapologetic. Listening to a friend, not to fix them, not to correct them, not to compete with their pain, but to hold space. Pausing to breathe, recognizing that breath is the first poem you ever spoke, and the one that will carry you until the end. A poetic life is built in these moments, not grand gestures, not viral quotes, not perfectly curated versions of yourself. It's built in noticing. Noticing how your child laughs without restraint. Noticing how grief still visits you sometimes. And sitting with it instead of running. Noticing how your own heart softens when you finally tell the truth. This is the ongoing journey. And here's the truth. It never really ends. You don't arrive at being poetic. You don't unlock some final level of awareness and stay there forever. You drift, you forget, you get distracted, and then you remember. You return to the page, you return to the breath, you return to the moment in front of you. That returning, that's the work. The journey doesn't end, it deepens. Your awareness becomes sharper, your compassion becomes steadier, your words become fewer, but truer. You begin to understand that poetry isn't something you create, it's something you participate in. The wind through trees is a stanza. The rhythm of your footsteps is a meter. The way you choose kindness when anger would be easier, that's a line break that changes everything. Living poetically means you stop asking, is this good enough? And start asking, is this honest? It means you stop chasing performance and start practicing presence. And presence is where meaning lives. So don't measure your poetic life by output. Measure it by awareness. Did you notice something beautiful today? Did you speak truth gently? Did you forgive yourself for being human? That's the journey. And if you're listening right now, if you stayed with this season, if you're still breathing, still reflecting, you're already walking that path. To live poetically is not about sounding beautiful. It's about becoming aligned. Aligned with the values poetry has been teaching us all along: presence, empathy, courage. These aren't decorative ideas, they're disciplines. Presence is noticing the moment before it slips away. It's catching the way light hits the kitchen floor before you rush out the door. It's hearing your own tone before it sharpens into something you'll regret. It's choosing to sit with discomfort instead of numbing. Presence asks you to stay in conversations, to stay in grief, to stay in joy long enough to actually feel it. Now, empathy is seeing the world through another's eyes, not agreeing with everyone, not excusing harm, but recognizing that every person is carrying something you can't see. Empathy slows judgment, it widens perspective, it trades certainty for curiosity. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with him?" ask, "What might they be carrying?" Empathy is the bridge between isolation and connection. In a world that profits off division, choosing empathy is a quiet act of rebellion. Then there's courage. Courage is naming what is true even when your voice shakes. It's saying, "I'm not okay. That hurt me. I want more for my life than this." Courage isn't loud. Sometimes it looks like setting a boundary. Sometimes it looks like apologizing. Sometimes it even looks like starting over. To live poetically is to practice these values daily. Not perfectly, but consistently. These are not just literary virtues, they're ways of being human. Presence keeps you awake, empathy keeps you connected, courage keeps you honest. When woven together, you stop performing life and you start inhabiting it. Your choices become verses, your boundaries become punctuation, your forgiveness becomes a refrain. Some days you fall short. You will. You'll lose presence. You'll react instead of respond. You'll choose fear over courage. That doesn't disqualify you. It invites you back to the breath, back to awareness, back to the next honest moment. A poetic life is not about perfection, it's about practice. As this season closes, ask yourself, where can I be more present? Where can I lead with empathy? Where's courage asking to be spoken? That's the work. That is the flame. Here's a poem I wrote to close out our season. can say a blessing for the path that you'll keep walking. It's titled Light for the Road Ahead. When the map grows dim and the night stretches wide, remember the quiet lantern you carry inside. It was not handed to you, you built it. From questions you dared to ask, from tears you allowed to fall, from truths you spoke when silence would have been easier. Every line you have written, every truth you have spoken is a spark that can't be broken. Even the lines you crumpled, even the words you whispered, only to yourself, they still burn. Walk on. When the road bends in ways you didn't expect, when the sky withholds its stars, when doubt taps at your shoulder like it knows your name, walk on. You're not walking empty handed, you're carrying language, you're carrying memory, you're carrying the proof that you have survived every chapter so far. The world may grow loud, opinions may crowd your path, fear may try to redraw the horizon, but listen closely. Beneath the noise, there is a steady flame. Not flashy, not desperate, just present. That flame is yours. It flickers when you are tired. It steadies when you return to breathe. It brightens when you choose honesty over approval. It does not demand perfection. It asks only that you keep walking. Walk on. There will be seasons when you feel unseen. There will be days when the page feels blank. There will be nights when you question whether your words matter at all. They do. Because your words are not just sounds, they are coordinates, they are compass points. They are small lights placed carefully along the road so that someone else might not stumble where you once did. And if the stars hide, if the horizon disappears, if the path grows unfamiliar, remember this. You are not searching for light, you're carrying it. The road will turn, it always does. The night will stretch, it always has. But your own words will light the next step. Walk on. As you move forward, don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait to feel inspired. Keep writing, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Writing was never about applause, it was about alignment. Some of your most important lines will never be posted. Some of your most honest reflections will stay between you and the page. That does not make them small. It makes them sacred. Keep writing when the day felt ordinary. Keep writing when the day felt unbearable. Keep writing when you think you have nothing to say. Consistency builds clarity. Clarity builds courage. Courage reshapes your life. Share a poem with someone who needs encouragement, not to impress, not to fix, but to remind them they're not alone inside their thoughts. Send the text, read it out loud, Leave it handwritten on a kitchen counter, but let your words travel. You never know which sentence will become someone else's lifeline. Let poetry guide your choices toward compassion when irritation would be easier, toward clarity when confusion feels comfortable, toward truth when silence feels safer. Let poetry interrupt you, interrupt impatience, interrupt assumptions, interrupt the stories that keep you small. Ask yourself, what would a poetic response look like here? What would presence say? What would empathy choose? What would courage risk? Poetry is not a season of life. It's not something you graduate from. It's not a chapter you close when things get busy. Poetry is always going to be a lifelong conversation between you and the world, between you and your own becoming. Some days that conversation will be loud. Some days it'll whisper. Stay in it. Return to it when you drift. Return to it when you doubt. Return to it when you forget who you are. This practice will outlast motivation. It will outlast trends. It'll outlast fear. Long after this season ends, long after the music fades, long after new projects begin, the practice remains. You noticing, you reflecting, you speaking honestly, you choosing compassion. That is the continuation. That is the work. That is the flame carried forward. Write, share, choose well, and always keep walking. Did you know your voice can ignite others? Not because it's perfect, not because it's polished, but because it's honest. When you share your words, whether on a page, in a conversation, or in the quiet of a friendship, you help someone else find their own. You may never see the spark catch. You may never hear how your sentence lingered in someone's mind long after you spoke it. But it does. Words travel. They settle in places we didn't even know were dark. Think about the lines that once steadied you. A lyric, a poem, a sentence someone said at exactly the right time. Those words did not shout. They lit something. That's how the flame moves, from one heart to another. Not in explosions, not in spectacle, in transfer, in trust, in shared truth. When you tell your story, you give someone else permission to tell theirs. When you admit you struggled, you make space for someone else to stop pretending. When you choose compassion over criticism, you shift the atmosphere for everyone in the room. This is how the flame travels. One honest conversation at a time, one brave admission at a time, one poem at a time. You're not responsible for how far it spreads. You're only responsible for keeping it lit. Share the page. Share the breath. Share the lesson you learned the hard way. not to position yourself as wise, but to stand beside someone else in their becoming. The world doesn't need more noise, it needs more light. And light multiplies when it's given away. So pass it. Pass it in encouragement, pass it in vulnerability, pass it in truth. Let your words remind someone that they're not invisible, that their story is not insignificant, that their voice is not too small. This is legacy, not fame, not followers. Legacy is the courage you awaken in someone else, from one heart to another, one poem at a time. And when you wonder if your voice matters, remember this. It mattered enough to carry you here, and it will matter enough to carry someone else forward. All right. Once again, thank you all for walking this journey with me through the first season of Speak Your Truth, a poetry podcast. 10 episodes, countless reflections, honest conversations, moments of light and moments of weight. You showed up, you listened, you felt, maybe you even wrote. It does, it matters more than you know. This season was never about perfection. It was about practice. It was about returning to ourselves again and again through language, through depression and anxiety, through resilience and renewal, through self compassion, through community, through the quiet rituals that anchor us. And now we stand at the edge of a new chapter. Not an ending, a continuation. May poetry continue to guide you through the dark and into every dawn. I hope it steadies you when your thoughts grow loud. I hope it softens you when the world feels hard. I hope it sharpens you when clarity is required. I hope you keep noticing. I hope you keep choosing empathy. I hope you keep finding the courage to say what is true, even when your voice shakes. If this season gave you even one sentence that stayed with you, even one moment of reflection that shifted your path, then the flame is already moving. Carry it well. And until next time, stay grounded, stay grateful, and always, always speak your truth. I have carried this flame long before you noticed the smoke, long before there were microphones, long before there were seasons, long before I knew what to call it. Back then it was just survival, a small stubborn light cupped inside shaking hands while the wind tried to convince me darkness was permanent. I learned early that the flame does not roar, it whispers. It says, stay. Stay in the room when it would be easier to run. Stay in the grief when it claws at your ribs. Stay in the truth when your voice trembles. I did not carry this flame perfectly. There were nights I almost dropped it. Nights I mistook silence for strength. Nights I let fear blow against it until it bent so low I thought it was gone. But here's what they don't tell you. The flame remembers you even when you forget it. It waits. It waits in the breath you refuse to slow down. It waits in the blank page you avoid. It waits in the apology you know you need to make. And when you return, it doesn't punish you, it steadies. I have carried this flame through depression that felt like wet concrete, through anxiety that rehearsed disasters before sunrise, through conversations where empathy felt like lifting weight with trembling arms. I've carried it when no one applauded, when the room was quiet, when the words stayed in journals no one else would read. Because the flame was never about witnesses. It was about alignment, about waking up and asking, can I live today in a way that does not betray my own truth? I learned this. Presence keeps the flame breathing. Empathy keeps it warm. Courage keeps it honest. Lose one and it flickers. Practice all three and it glows steady, even in the wind. And now, I see you, holding your own small light, wondering if it's enough, wondering if your voice matters. Listen to me. This flame does not belong to the loudest. It belongs to the willing, willing to notice the sunrise, willing to admit the hurt, willing to speak the truth even when it costs you comfort. I have passed this flame before, in conversations that ended in tears, in poems sent at midnight, in quiet kitchens where someone said, "Me too," and meant it. This is how it travels. Not in spectacle, in transfer. One heart leaning close enough to light another. You don't need to blaze. You just need to stay lit. Guard it. Feed it. Return to it when you drift. And when your road bends, when the stars hide, when doubt taps your shoulder like it knows your name, remember, you were not searching for light. You're carrying it. I have carried this flame through storms you can't see. Now I place it in your hands. Walk on. And when the time comes, you'll do the same. One poem at a time.